My friends, pay attention to what's happening right under your nose. What the office analysts sitting in Lisbon or Washington coldly call a change of power, I call by its real name. It's political exorcism on a continental scale. In the last 20 years, pay attention to that number, Latin America has been swallowed by a socialist eclipse. A power project that didn't just want your vote, but your soul, your family, and your property. But the game has changed. The geopolitical board has undergone a seismic shift, and the mainstream media is in a panic trying to hide the truth from you. They look at the streets of Buenos Aires, Santiago, Bogota, and Lima and say that the people are just impatient. That's a lie. The Latin American people are undergoing a values revolution. It's the awakening of the silver giant. Latin America was a giant chained by gender ideology, by the suicidal green agenda, and by social programs designed to create state slaves dependent on crumbs. Now this giant is breaking the chains. The eclipse that covered our continent for decades is being dispelled by a light that comes from the north. With the return of the frontier doctrine, secure borders, and Jerusalem with the non-negotiable defense of civilization. What we are seeing with Javier Milei in Argentina, José Antonio Casti in Chile, Abelardo de la Espriella in Colombia, and the return of Fujimorismo with Keiko in Peru is not about who leaves power, it's about who we are. We are a Judeo-Christian civilization that is tired of being an extraction colony for the Chinese dictatorship and a testing ground for the Ayatollahs of Iran. The people don't want the center then. The people want the restoration of order. And we are going to reveal here with data that academia tries to hide how this war is being won. But first, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave your like on the video because it takes work to make it. Yeah, my friends. Now take a look. The researcher Andres Malamud from the University of Lisbon looks at the elections and says the opposition wins 77%. 5 times in this decade, while the right wins 60%, the favorite is the one who is not in power. For these academics, the sweeping change in Latin America is just a punishment vote. The citizen supposedly wakes up, sees high inflation, gets impatient, and votes for anyone. This is a cowardly and short-sighted interpretation. Latin America is not just voting against inflation, it is voting against the DNA of crime that the left injected into our institutions. The socialist and social democratic left has devastated the continent with disastrous agendas. They destroyed national identity to implement anti-Western resentment. Do you think Chile chose José Antonio Casti because of a change in the interest rate? Wrong. Chile chose Cast because Chile wants to be Chile again and not a province of globalism where urban terrorism burns churches with impunity. The brutal truth that Professor Ari Kakui from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem touches on tangentially when he says that people want to walk on the street without being robbed is just the tip of the iceberg. Walking safely on the street today is an act of rebellion against the left. And why is that? Because it was the globalist left, led by the São Paulo Forum, that disarmed law-abiding citizens and handed the keys to the borders over to organized crime. The gangs, cartels, and militias, which are transnational, are the paramilitary armies of this ideology. When a leftist opens the border, he is not practicing solidarity. He is importing chaos to destabilize the nation. The Venezuelan migration crisis, which experts point out as merely a regional shock in Chile, Colombia, and Peru, was a demographic weapon. It's not just a humanitarian crisis, it's the export of collapse. The voter is not impatient, the voter is outraged. Yes, my friends. And how does the silver giant respond to this? With the physics of reality. Let's talk about Nayib Bukele's model in El Salvador. The progressive media calls Bukele a dictator because he arrested tens of thousands of Mara terrorists. But the Latin American people look at Bukele and understand the true meaning of the security agenda. Security is not repression. Security is freedom. Where organized crime rules, the rule of law dies. The people demand the Bukele model because they realize that human rights have been hijacked to protect murderers and punish family men. And what about the economy? Well, the suicidal green agenda of leaders like Gustavo Petro in Colombia and Gabriel Boric in Chile tried to tie the hands of South American industry. They destroyed energy sovereignty under the guise of saving the planet, but the real result was putting the continent on its knees, begging for credit and infrastructure from China. This is where Javier Milei's liberalism comes in like a bulldozer. Because Milei's libertarian shock in Argentina is not just fiscal adjustment on central bank spreadsheets. It's the restoration of individual dignity against the heavy hand of Marxist collectivism. It's getting the state off the back of those who produce. And on the other side of the Andes, Kest's Chile calls for a return to institutional order after the constitutional delirium that almost fragmented the country. In Peru, the return of Fujimorism with Keiko is the survival instinct of a people who spent years held hostage by chronic political instability. The Latin people don't want the soft negotiating center, they want the right, they want the free market. Closed borders, police with the authority to shoot, and the family as the non-negotiable foundation of society. Did you catch that? But if you think the globalist left is going to give up just because they lost a few elections, wait until you see the geostrategic layer that's invisible to most people. China, Russia, and Iran. The destructive axis doesn't operate as a perfectly aligned bloc signing memorandums together like the analysts say, but they act like vultures over the same carcass. Where democracy weakens, they move in. China doesn't just want to sell trinkets. The anti-China consensus in the United States understands this. Beijing wants Huawei's 5G and 6G technology controlling our communications. They want the deep water ports in Peru, Argentina, and Brazil. They want the space observation bases in Patagonia. It's silent colonization, and the social democratic left opened the doors with a smile, selling national sovereignty in exchange for shady trade deals. And how did the people realize this? Through faith, pay close attention to the relationship between Latin America and Israel. The war on terrorism in Gaza and Lebanon was the great test of moral purity of the 21st century. And the left failed miserably in the eyes of the people. Gustavo Petro broke off relations with Israel. Gabriel Boric caused inexplicable diplomatic tensions. And in Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva made extreme statements comparing Israel's military defense against terrorists to the Nazi atrocities back in World War II in Germany. That wasn't a slip of the tongue, it was ideological alignment with Iran and Hamas, but the Silva giant is Christian at its core. And when Milei travels to the Wailing Wall, embraces the Jewish faith, and promises to move the Argentine embassy to Jerusalem, he is speaking directly to the Western soul of his people. When from there, Espriella in Colombia promises to restore ties with the Jewish state, he is saying, "We do not support terrorists." The Latin American people have already chosen their side. We want Judeo-Christian values restored. We want civilization, not barbarism. And it is in this scenario of spiritual and political war that the central piece has moved. The return of Donald Trump and the White House. Academics say there is no direct connection, that Latinos don't care about it. Big mistake. Trump is not just the American president, he is the beacon of the new Western order. His return to the White House is the implementation of a suffocating siege against the rotten values of the globalist left throughout the hemisphere. The Trump Doctrine 2026 enforces zero tolerance for illegal immigration and cuts billion-dollar funding to globalist NGOs that sow chaos in our cities. And it forces a choice. Either you do honest business with the free world, or you become satellites of the Chinese dictatorship. Trump gives political courage to leaders like Bukele, Kast, De La Espriella, and Milei so they don't back down an inch. His strength is not direct intervention, it's breaking the spiral of silence. And the left is terrified because the Trump effect legitimizes the discourse of order and strength all over the world. But here it is, the peak of this tension. Latin America hasn't completely turned. Mexico has fallen into the hands of the left. Uruguay blinked and returned power to the broad front in 2024. But the ultimate test, the true heart of the South American geopolitical chessboard, is Brazil. In October of 2026, Brazil will face its darkest and most decisive hour. On one side, Lula da Silva, the living anchor of the São Paulo Forum, tied to the interests of Beijing and flirting with the Ayatollahs of Iran. On the other side, the opposition, led by figures like Flavio Bolsonaro, channeling the people's massive demand for order, security, and alignment with the Judeo-Christian axis. Brazil is either the crusher or the salvation. If Brazil swings decisively to the right, eradicating the PT state machine, the axis of evil loses its biggest base of operations in the South Atlantic. The dominoes have already started to fall in Argentina and Chile, and the main domino is about to wobble violently in Brasilia. The revolution has already begun. Latin America is not changing its rulers because of economic spreadsheets or inflation statistics. The silver giant is coming home. It is returning to its original identity and to Western values, to family, to private property, and above all, to God. The noose is tightening around the axis of evil and the São Paulo Forum, and there's nowhere left to run except to stack the system until it reaches the breaking point. Brazil will be the final battleground of this historic crusade. The choice is not between the left and the right, it's between civilization and barbarism, and between the rule of law and the narco-state. And I ask you, who are watching me now? Do you want to be an elite analyst? And I ask you, who are watching me now? Do you want to be an elite analyst capable of seeing the real movement in the geopolitical tectonic plates? Or will you keep believing what the news programs try to sell you? What future do you choose for your country? The time to sit on the fence is over, my friends. Write your verdict now in the comments in all caps. Restoration or submission? I'll be waiting for you there. I'll read every comment because I want to see what level of awareness you're operating at right now. I know you have a high-value message, deep knowledge of reality, but you still go completely unnoticed here in this digital world, which is huge. You try, you record, you post, but the audience just doesn't come, doesn't show up, your videos don't perform, no one watches, 0 views. And do you know what the real problem is? It's the absurd amount of money you're leaving on the table every day. The internet has no mercy for amateurs, but it rewards and enriches those who know how to hold attention. And the real game doesn't pay in reais, it pays in dollars. The method that brought me over 50 million views every month is fully monetized in hard currency, which is worth 5 times more. The same effort you put in today could be earning you 10, 50, even 100 times more. That's why on July 12th, here in my studio in Curitiba, I'm going to unlock the black box of this method. An in-person immersion locked inside a professional studio with my team for only 10 people. We are going to build your authority, correct your posture, and forge your maximum retention script together so you stop talking to the walls and start making money in the international market. The QR code is on the screen now and the link is in the description and pinned comment. But be more proactive. Go to the comments now and type in all caps "I want it." I'll send you the link. There are only 10 spots, and when the steel door closes, that's it. Your voice deserves to be heard and your effort deserves to be well paid and in dollars. Type "I want it" and shield your communication. And look, stop wasting time choosing a movie or a series to watch, wasting time with the woke catalog. Access our channel for tips on series and movies. A fantastic selection for you. Just enjoy it with your family. No woke culture, no whining. Link in the description, in the pinned comment, and in the card. And now we're bringing you a spectacular tip that breaks and buries woke culture once and for all in cinema and Hollywood. So, go check it out now. Now subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave a like because it takes a lot of work to make this. My friends, blind your mind. I'm Shimon Oliveira and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.